I'm going to do it. I'm going to talk about it. Talk about political magic. Before people start commenting that magic isn't political, yes, it fucking is. It always has been. Look and search Nazi occult, search the history of Haitian voodoo, search the witches who turned Hitler away from England. Magic has been political for a long ass time. Shut the fuck up. Okay. That being said, just because you're a witch doesn't mean you should be casting on shit you don't understand. I'm going to use Roe v. Wade as an example because that issue is recent and that is where I have the most observations and the most advice to give. However, I want this advice to carry into any political issue that you're going to engage with magically, okay? This advice is not a complete list. It's not a... Yeah, it's certainly not complete, and I'm certainly not an expert. I want to add, before I get into anything, that I neither condemn nor condone, death cursing certain people. But I have thoughts, okay? Number one, if you're going to be casting on political officials, cast to kill, okay? Really stop wasting everyone's time and mucking up magical traffic by casting shit to make people stub their toe or ruin their relationship or make them feel insecure or whatever the fuck. These are things you're not going to see the effects of, and these are things that are not going to affect the political climate whatsoever. If they do with hotheads like Trump, that would just make them more aggro and make them take away more rights from people just for fun. So stop. If you're someone who's never death cursed anyone before, don't try it now. You will not be successful with someone you don't even know, and something you don't know how to do. Let those who know what they're doing do it. I do have other jobs for y'all. We'll get to that in a second. To those who are capable of death cursing, and you feel like you should death curse a Supreme Court justice or a political figure or whatever, a couple things. Understand that what you're doing is an act of terrorism, and if you're not okay with doing terrorism, then part of you will have cognitive dissonance about your spell work. So consider that. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not going to judge your morality, but I also want you to consider, how far is that spell really going to go? Okay, are you doing the spell because you actually care about this issue, or because you want to be a hero, or because you want to show off? Because if you want to affect change, then you'll know, and you'll observe, as I have, that whenever any of these people disappear, they're just replaced with someone worse. And killing these Supreme Court justices, for example, would not bring back abortion rights, for federally anyway. It would not bring back anyone's rights. It just would eliminate someone in that seat to be replaced with someone else. So it's very short-sighted, in my opinion, at least politically. Now, when it comes to casting politically at all, or casting at all, okay, when it comes to casting at all, you should understand what you're casting on. And when you are casting for political reasons, nothing is isolated. That's the thing a lot of liberals don't understand, and even leftists tend to forget, is that everything is not isolated. Most things, in fact, politically are not isolated at all. So if you're isolating the issue to a villain and then appointing yourself a hero to assassinate that villain, I mean, to me, it's like you have a third grade understanding of what's going on. And you probably shouldn't be mucking up what the adults are trying to do. Just, that's a harsh way of putting it, but it's how I feel. Okay. Let me elaborate. So, not all of us are meant to be the hero. In fact, none of us are going to be the hero because there is no clear villain. The people who we see make the decisions. The people who are in the government that we see are just placeholders. I would go so far to say, as someone who understands the role capitalism plays in our country's decline into fascism, these officials, these governmental figures, are not much more than masks for corporations to wear. Because the corporations have their interests, they send their lobbyists to the politicians are bribed, and then legislation is either passed or ripped away. So that's how that shit goes. So if you want to affect change, follow the fucking money. That's what I've been doing with my research on work that I want to do regarding Roe v. Wade issues and regarding my baneful work that I want to do. Now, don't get short-sighted on just baneful work, because that is usually coming from a place of reacting. And who reacts? Who is reacting? The victim, right? If you're always coming from the victim position, you're never going to gain the upper hand. Ever. And you'll always be reacting. So things will be done to you or done to someone else, and you'll always be reacting. And your reactions are not restoring what was taken. Your reactions are not benefiting anyone. Not even yourself. Perhaps they're giving you a bit of catharsis. Perhaps they're giving you a bit of sense of pride for a second, but they're really not sustaining your human rights. So what can you do that can benefit you? That would be proactive. Well, one, follow the money, preemptively attack organizations, funders, funds, people who head these funds. You can do that. That's a baneful way of doing it. It's still sort of reactive. But you can bolster efforts that already exist. For one, protecting, and again, I'm using Roe v. Wade as an example, protecting existing abortion clinics is essential. Protecting contraceptive rights, contraceptive resources in general is necessary. Now that abortion is not an option for possibly millions of people with uteruses. Protecting safe spaces for people with uteruses and for women. Protecting the funds that go to abortion clinics, right? You can do prosperity work towards funds you support. You can do healing work towards activists who are experiencing burnout. You can do so much, okay? Because I think a lot of people glamorize the stereotypical masculine things you can do, such as like fighting or, confronting, brandishing a weapon or what the fuck have you, but no one really wants to talk about all of the nitty-gritty things that go into organizing, that go into a movement, that go into making change, that are not always glamorous and not always fun. And often are quite boring or time consuming, but they're necessary to do. You know, the Black Panther Party had some people just fucking collect toothbrushes and shit. Okay? Or canned food, or fold bedclothes on like spare beds or what have you, right? Not everybody was this cool person in the street with a gun and a beret and, you know, looking badass. Not everybody was doing that. Because if everybody was doing that, they wouldn't have gone very far. They need some people to do that, and they need some other people to do the shit that's less glamorous, that's less iconic to take photographs of, because it's boring. It's not controversial, but it is necessary. I want to add that if you don't understand the big picture politically, your magic is not going to be effective politically. Okay? Getting caught up in individuals, any individual figurehead, is going to distract you. That's on purpose. Okay? Have a plan in place for dealing with burnout. Have a plan in place for something you can do mundanely to help maintain a sense of power over your life. I highly recommend, you know, just being part of a community effort somewhere nearby you, right? Or just doing something for your community, even if you're not getting recognition for it or part of an official organization, because that can be time consuming, that can consume money even that you may not have. But, you know, if it's just something like there's a community fridge near me, you know, if I make sure that I put my leftovers or whatever food I'm not eating that isn't perishable in the community fridge for someone else, like I'm making sure that I'm not wasting resources that someone else could be using, right? And that's something super small and not at all huge scale, but it's just something that helps me feel like, okay, I have an excess and I know that I'm not just throwing it in the landfill. I know that someone else has the opportunity to have it. And that makes me feel a little more empowered to do more, you know? Maybe I'll volunteer my time at an actual shelter. Maybe, you know, I can be at a town meeting and advocate against the anti-homeless architecture that's popping up around my city, right? Or simply propose, instead of waiting for that to happen, propose like architecture that is homeless friendly, or like spaces where it is okay for people to take naps in public spaces, or get free water, or use the bathroom. You know, that's a big issue. I think like there's nowhere for houseless people to just use the bathroom, and that's a sanitary issue for the city at large, right? So those are all like just little examples of things you can do that aren't as big of a pressure as like joining a whole organization. I know like a lot of people have like anxiety about the socialization parts of that. Sometimes I get that too. But it does feel good to be part of change. It does feel good to be involved in your community. I know that's not something we talk a lot about on the left-hand path. We talk a lot about focusing on ourselves, but I think when it comes to the world more broadly outside of our spiritualities, and we think that we can save everybody when we don't even understand how it works, most of the time we're obstructing efforts that already exist when we could instead add our strength and expertise to them. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say for this video. I'm going to cut it off here. I probably am not done talking about it, but for now, that's what it's going to be. If I talk about it again, I'll make it a playlist and y'all can ignore it or watch it or whatever. But if you made it through this video all the way through, like, thank you. Especially if you politically disagree with me, I'm impressed if you made it all the way through this video. And I appreciate just the open-mindedness to listen. If you're somebody who is already radicalized, you probably didn't learn anything new, but maybe from the magical side, things clicked. And if you're a well-meaning person who did any of the hexes or curses that I'm annoyed with, I'm not trying to shame you for any of that. I'm just proposing what I think are better ideas. So that's that. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time.